The alien princess was astonished. When I said her name, it has never been remembered before. Elia's ward leaned against the viewport of the starship Endeavor, staring at the swirling nebula ahead. He had traveled farther than most humans ever had, crossing the void to reach a world that very few had seen, and fewer still had walked. Scifi. A planet of legends and whispers, known to humans only through fragments of alien records and ancient myths. Now, Elias was here in person, a human ambassador entering a civilization that had not welcomed outsiders in centuries. "Everything ready, Elias?" asked Lieutenant Mara, his second-in-command. Her voice was calm, but Elias could sense her tension. Even she, trained and experienced, felt the weight of this mission. "Yes," Elias replied, adjusting his jacket. "Remember, we are not here to conquer. We are here to connect." Mara nodded. "That's what worries me. Connections are unpredictable, especially with a species that has hidden itself for so long." Elias smiled faintly. "Unpredictability is part of what makes humanity strong. We adapt, we learn. That is what I want them to see." The landing was smooth. Sorith IV's surface was breathtaking, vast plains of shimmering crystal, towering forests of iridescent plants, and skies painted with the gold and violet of twin suns. But there was also a silence that felt deliberate, a quiet that suggested watchful eyes. Humans had heard tales of the Sorithians, a proud race, wise and cautious, whose history was older than many human civilizations. Now Elias was about to meet them directly. The palace of the Sorithian royal family rose before them, a structure of white and silver, adorned with symbols that pulsed faintly with energy. It was unlike any architecture Elias had seen, a blend of organic elegance and technological mastery. As they approached, the massive gates opened silently, revealing the royal courtyard. There, standing with unmatched poise, was Princess Vaelith. Her appearance was mesmerizing, tall and graceful, with eyes that shimmered like polished starlight. Her presence commanded attention without a word. Elias felt a flutter of awe. Humans had never encountered a being like her before, yet he reminded himself, first impressions mattered, but respect mattered more. "Princess Vaelith," he said, bowing slightly in the human manner of greeting. "I am Elias Ward, ambassador of humanity. I come in peace and with respect for your people." Vaelith's gaze studied him carefully, her expression unreadable. "Human," she said finally, her voice melodic yet firm. "You have traveled far. Why should I accept your presence?" Elias straightened. "Because, Princess, humans remember what others forget. I come with knowledge and with a desire to restore what was lost, not to claim it, but to honor it." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Vaelith's eyes narrowed as if trying to measure the truth behind his words. The courtiers around her shifted, their alien features alert and tense. "You speak boldly," Vaelith said. "Words are easy, proof is rare, yet you seem confident. Why?" Elias took a deep breath. "Because I know your true name." The chamber fell into complete stillness. Even the subtle hum of energy from the palace seemed to pause. Vaelith's eyes widened just slightly, her lips parted not in anger or fear, but in disbelief. "You know it," she whispered. "Yes," Elias replied, "Vaelith Shara. The name that has not been spoken for thousands of cycles. The name your people erased to protect your history." The reaction was immediate. Courtiers murmured in confusion, some glancing at each other, unsure if this was a mistake or a miracle. Vaelith took a step back, her hand instinctively touching her chest. "No one has said it in countless generations," she said softly. Her voice trembled not with fear but with astonishment. How do you know?" Elias smiled gently. "Because humans remember. My people found fragments of your history hidden in stories, in symbols, and even in star charts. We preserved them not to dominate, not to manipulate, but to honor what your people had given long ago." Vaelith's expression shifted from shock to curiosity. She studied him, searching for deception, yet found none. Her heart raced, not in fear, but in the recognition of something long lost. You remember," she said finally, almost to herself. "And yet, humans are a young species, fragile compared to us." "How can you hold such memory?" Elias shrugged. "Memory does not depend on age or strength. It depends on care. We preserve not because it is easy, but because it matters. And your name, your history, it matters." The courtiers, previously tense, began to murmur more openly. Some whispered in disbelief, others in curiosity. A few approached cautiously, intrigued by the human's knowledge. One elder, his skin glistening like polished amber, stepped forward. "If this is true," he said slowly, Then you have done what none of us dared attempt. To remember what we erased. Yes, Elias said, but I do not claim it as mine. I offer it to you to restore what was lost. Your people survived by forgetting, yes, but some knowledge is too important to vanish. Valeth took another step closer, her voice steadier now. And you believe humans can help us rather than harm us? Elias nodded. I do. We have learned to value history, to respect it, and to protect it. That is what we offer now, memory, guidance, and cooperation. She regarded him for a long moment. Perhaps there is hope in your people. Perhaps humanity remembers not to dominate but to honor. That is unusual. Perhaps it is our strength, Elias said, and perhaps it can become yours as well if we work together. Valeth considered this. The silence stretched across the courtyard like a tangible presence, filled with the weight of history and unspoken possibilities. Then slowly she nodded. Very well, she said. You may enter the palace, but understand this, the High Council will not accept your words lightly. You will need to prove your memory, your intent, and your understanding. Only then will we begin to trust you fully. Elias bowed again. I understand, Princess. I am prepared to show the truth of what we remember and to honor what was lost. Inside the palace, the corridors were a marvel of alien architecture. Smooth, reflective surfaces curved gracefully, displaying soft patterns of glowing light that shifted as they moved. Elias followed Valeth through these halls, absorbing every detail. His human mind raced, not with fear but with fascination. He was a witness to a civilization older and wiser than Earth, yet he felt no intimidation. Valeth led him to a private chamber. The room was filled with ancient relics, scrolls, holographic devices, and crystalline instruments that hummed softly with energy. At the center stood the memory prism, a crystalline structure said to hold fragments of Sorithian history. Elias had read about it, but seeing it in person was overwhelming. This prism, Valeth said, can sense the intent of those who approach it. It tests the honesty of memory and the truth of purpose. If it finds deception, it will reject you. I understand, Elias replied. Then I will show it nothing but truth. Valeth studied him closely. You speak confidently, but words alone will not suffice. The prism responds to deeds and understanding. It will test you. Elias nodded, focusing on the task ahead. Humans had faced challenges that required courage, intelligence, and respect for knowledge. This was no different. He was not here to conquer, but to honor and connect. Hours passed as they prepared. Elias studied the symbols on the prism, comparing them with human archives. Slowly, he began to understand the patterns, the rhythm, and the logic behind the ancient devices. He did not see them as alien or threatening. They were a language, a story, a bridge to the past. Valeth observed, silently impressed. She had watched countless beings attempt to interact with the prism, most failing. Yet this human approached with patience, care, and respect, qualities her people had long forgotten. Finally, the moment came. Elias placed his hands on the prism, his mind focused, his intent pure. Energy flowed through him, connecting human knowledge with Sorithian memory. Images began to shimmer, ancient alliances, lost guidance, starways long forgotten. The prism pulsed in harmony with his understanding. Valeth stepped back, observing as the chamber filled with the light of rediscovered history. For the first time in millennia, the memory of the Sorithian people was beginning to awaken, guided by a human who remembered what they had chosen to forget. Outside the palace, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the city in shades of amber and violet. Elias and Valeth stood together, preparing for what would come next, the trial of memory. But for now, the first step had been taken. The forgotten name had been spoken. The past had begun to stir. And humanity, through Elias' ward, had proven that remembering could be the strongest power of all. The sun of Soreth IV was low on the horizon, casting long amber shadows across the palace gardens. The air was filled with the gentle hum of bioluminescent plants, their soft glow reflecting off polished marble paths. Elias' ward walked slowly, his mind heavy with the memory of what had happened earlier. In the grand hall, when he spoke Princess Valeth's true name, the world had seemed to pause. The name, erased from history for thousands of years, had reverberated through the palace like a hidden melody rediscovered after centuries. Elias remembered the way Valeth's eyes widened, the sharp intake of breath she could not hide, and the way the courtiers froze, unsure how to respond. He had not meant to shock her, but he had always believed in the power of truth. And in the truth, he had found a bridge. Now he waited quietly at the edge of the garden. Valeth approached him, her movements graceful yet cautious. She wore a robe that shimmered like liquid starlight, the color of her eyes catching the last rays of the alien sun. She stopped a few feet away, studying him carefully. You know what my name is," she said finally. Her voice carried a mix of awe and suspicion. "I do," Elias replied softly, bowing slightly, "and I think it is time someone remembered it." Valeth narrowed her eyes. "Why? How can a human know something that my people chose to forget?" Elias took a deep breath. "Because humans keep memories. We do not always understand them, and sometimes we misunderstand. But we remember. Some truths are too important to vanish, even if the ones who lived them tried to erase them." She stared at him, and for a moment the garden seemed quiet. The hum of the bioluminescent plants faded, replaced by the soft sound of the wind in alien trees. Then slowly she spoke. "You speak of something ancient." "Yes," Elias said. "Long ago, before your people withdrew into secrecy, humans and your ancestors were allies. You guided our early exploration. You helped us survive when we had no stars, no understanding, only curiosity." Valeth's eyes flickered with emotion. She had been taught that humans were a minor, unpredictable species. Yet here was one, standing before her, speaking truths that her people had buried deep in time. "You claim this," she said, "yet my people erased all evidence. All knowledge of our contact was destroyed. How do you prove it?" Elias smiled faintly. "We do not always need proof to remember. My ancestors preserved what we could of your guidance. Old languages, myths, star maps, they were hidden in our histories, disguised in ways only humans could understand. But now the knowledge is awakening again. We found the paths you once guided us on, and we followed them to you." Valeth walked slowly beside him, her long robe trailing on the marble. She spoke softly, almost to herself. "Hidden in myths, passed down unknowingly, humans remembered what we forgot." "Yes," Elias said. "Your name, Princess Valeth, is one of those fragments. Forgotten by your people, remembered by us. I did not seek to shock you. I only sought to honor your history." The princess turned to him fully, the glow of the setting sun reflecting in her eyes. "And yet humans are strange. We erase the past to protect ourselves. You remember it not to harm, but to connect. It is unfamiliar." Elias nodded. "Humanity learns through memory. We learn from mistakes and victories alike. That is how we survive and grow. Sometimes remembering others is more important than remembering ourselves." Valeth paused at the edge of a fountain, its waters reflecting the shimmering alien sky. She looked at the water and touched it lightly, sending ripples across the surface. "If what you say is true, if humans indeed carry the memory of our ancestors, perhaps there is a path for a new alliance. But the High Council, they will not accept this lightly." Elias glanced at her. "Then we must show them that truth does not threaten them. It strengthens them. You and I can show them that remembering the past can guide the future." The princess remained silent for a moment, her thoughts hidden behind a calm exterior. Finally, she spoke. "Very well, you will have a chance to prove it. But you must understand, Elias Ward, this world is careful with truth. The wrong word can ignite fear, and fear can undo centuries of survival." Elias bowed again. "I understand, and I promise I will tread carefully." That evening they returned to the palace together. The corridors were quiet, the High Council in session in the great chamber. Valeth introduced Elias as a keeper of memory, a title that carried both honor and suspicion. The council members eyed him cautiously, their alien features betraying their doubt. Elias spoke calmly, without arrogance or fear. "I am not here to claim power or to challenge your wisdom. I am here to share a forgotten history. A history that links our species, a history that can guide both of us toward growth and understanding." One council member, an elder with scales that shimmered like silver, hissed softly. "Humans speak boldly. How do we know this is not deception? How do we trust a species that has only recently reached the stars?" Elias responded without hesitation. "Trust is built through action, not words. Allow me to show you what we remember. Allow me to share knowledge hidden in human stories and science. Knowledge that your people once gave willingly in the age before isolation." Another council member, younger and more curious, leaned forward. "What knowledge do humans preserve that we have forgotten?" Elias smiled and laid out a star map, old but precise, over a crystal table. The map displayed pathways across the galaxy, routes to lost colonies, and signals to long-dormant machines. These are the starways your people guided us to long before they were erased from your records. They are still functional. We found them, preserved them, and now we can navigate them again. Valith watched as the council murmured among themselves. Some were intrigued, others wary. The concept of humans as guardians of memory was entirely alien to them. For centuries, the aliens had believed themselves alone in understanding the galaxy. Now, a human was offering not conquest, but remembrance, guidance, and cooperation. The princess stepped forward. The human speaks truth. His people remember what we have lost. If they are correct, it may benefit us to listen. Elias nodded. It is not just for your people, it is for both of us. The galaxy is vast, and there are forces and knowledge we have yet to discover. Together, we are stronger than we are apart. For hours, they discussed forgotten alliances, lost technologies, and the shared history of two species. Valith saw humanity not as a minor species, but as a bridge, connecting the past to the present, linking memory to the future. When the council finally adjourned, the princess approached Elias. You have given me much to think about. Perhaps there is hope, not only for humans but for my people as well, but the council will not easily accept this. They fear change, even when it is beneficial. Elias smiled softly. Fear is natural, humans feel it too, but history shows that fear can be overcome with patience, courage, and action. We must show them the truth gently and steadily. Valith nodded. Then we begin tomorrow. You and I will walk the halls of history together. If humanity remembers the past, then perhaps it is time my people do as well. As they parted for the night, Elias looked out over the alien city. Lights flickered across the domes and spires, glowing softly against the dark sky. Somewhere in those glowing towers, countless memories waited, forgotten names, lost knowledge, ancient guidance. And now, for the first time in centuries, those memories were beginning to breathe again. The journey was far from over. Trust had to be built, fears had to be faced, and the High Council had to be convinced. But Elias and Valith had taken the first step. Together, they would awaken a forgotten alliance. Together, they would show that humans remembered not to control, not to dominate, but to honor what others had left behind. The stars above Sorith IV twinkled quietly, as if acknowledging the fragile promise of understanding between two very different species. In that silence, Elias felt something extraordinary. Hope. A hope not born of conquest or power, but of memory, respect, and the courage to speak a name that had been lost to time. And in the heart of Princess Valith, a new thought stirred, a hope that humans were not just wanderers among the stars, but keepers of what the universe had almost forgotten. The palace of Sorith IV was quieter than usual that morning. The golden light of the twin suns stretched across the marble floors of the council chamber, illuminating intricate patterns etched into the walls centuries ago. The air smelled faintly of alien blossoms, sweet yet unfamiliar, carrying the weight of anticipation. Princess Valith walked beside Elia's ward, her steps measured, her mind alert. Today would be the test. The High Council had decided that Elias could not simply present evidence and speak truth. He would undergo the trial of memory, an ancient ritual designed to measure intent and honesty. In Sorithian tradition, it was said that memories themselves could speak the truth if guided correctly. Elias had read about it in the fragmented records they had discovered. Humans had no ritual exactly like this, but they had faced challenges of trust and proof before. And humans had a strength that came from courage, creativity, and a deep desire to connect with others. Elias drew on that strength now, stepping into a world very different from his own. The chamber was circular, with high, arched ceilings. Bioluminescent glyphs glowed faintly, each symbol representing a memory or story of the Sorithian people. The council members sat in elevated seats, their long robes flowing, their eyes like polished gemstones that reflected light in sharp glints. At the center of the chamber was a memory prism, a crystalline structure that shimmered with soft internal light. This device was older than any living Sorithian and was said to reveal hidden truths. Valith turned to Elias. This is the core of the trial, she said. The prism connects with the mind and intention. If it senses dishonesty or manipulation, it will reject you. If it senses truth, it will allow your memories to be shared. Do you understand? I do, Elias replied. I have nothing to hide. All I want is to show the past as it really was so we can build the future together. The princess gave a small nod, then motioned for him to step forward. Elias approached the prism, feeling a strange energy hum against his skin. It was not threatening, rather it seemed curious, like a living thing waiting for him to speak. A council member, an elder with skin like polished bronze, addressed him. "Human, you claim to remember what we have lost. Your species is small and new. Why should the prism accept your memories?" Elias squared his shoulders. "Because what I offer is not mine alone. My people preserved fragments of your history, your guidance, and your wisdom. We did not change it, we only remembered it. I offer it now to restore what was lost, not to claim it." The elder studied him carefully. "Words are easy. The prism does not respond to words." "Step closer." Elias stepped into the light of the memory prism. It pulsed faintly, and he felt a tingling in his mind. Images began to appear, not his own memories, but shared histories he had learned, recorded in human archives. He saw the early contact between humans and Saurithians. Long ago, before humans had traveled beyond their solar system, Saurithian emissaries had arrived on Earth. They had shared knowledge of star maps, of distant planets, of technologies that could allow humans to survive in space. Humans had preserved these lessons in myths, in songs, and in symbols. Elias had studied them all. The prism absorbed these memories and began to glow brighter. The council murmured, some in awe, others in suspicion. Memories of the ancient alliance played across the chamber like holographic tapestries. Scenes of humans and Saurithians working together, building structures that bridged worlds, learning from each other's cultures, flashed in the light. One council member hissed softly. This is our history, lost to us, yet the human shows it without deceit." "Yes," Elias said, "I do not claim it as ours. I only share what has been preserved. We honored your people by remembering what you had to forget." The memory prism reacted. It sent a ripple of energy through the chamber, and Elias felt himself momentarily connected to the minds of the Saurithians. He did not feel fear. Instead, he felt curiosity, wonder, and the weight of generations who had preserved what others had abandoned. Valith watched him closely. The prism had begun to glow with a new color, soft and golden, signaling approval. Elias could feel the council members sensing the same shift, but not all were convinced. One elder, her eyes like molten silver, stepped forward. "It is possible to mimic memory. How do we know he does not fabricate?" Elias closed his eyes briefly. "Memory is not just about facts. It carries the essence of those who lived it, the lessons, the choices, the intent. I cannot fake that. I can only show what has been remembered." The elder approached the prism, placing a hand near its surface. The chamber shivered slightly as the prism responded to her doubt. A soft hum filled the air, vibrating in harmony with the thoughts of all present. Elias felt a surge of energy, not painful, but intense, as if the prism was testing him, reaching into his mind to see the authenticity of his memories. He focused, recalling the countless hours of study, the nights spent deciphering alien glyphs, the joy of discovering star maps that had not been seen for millennia. He thought of the human desire to learn, to connect, to honor the past without controlling it. The prism pulsed in resonance. Valith stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm lightly. "Trust yourself," she whispered. "The prism senses truth, not perfection." Elias opened his eyes. He extended his hands, and the prism projected a vivid scene. Humans and Saurithians together, building a device that could send signals across the galaxy. Humans struggled at first, failing in experiments, but Saurithians guided them patiently. The memory showed respect, collaboration, and a shared vision for exploration. The council watched in silence. Some leaned forward, eyes wide. Others whispered among themselves, uncertain how to respond to what they were seeing. Finally, the prism began to dim, the images settling into a soft glow. It had accepted Elia's memories. It had recognized the truth in his intent and the authenticity of what he offered. The chamber felt lighter, almost as if centuries of forgotten history were breathing again. Valith turned to the council. "The prism has spoken. It accepts his memory as true. Humanity has preserved what we once shared, and in doing so they honor us." A long silence followed. Then the elder with molten silver eyes stepped back. "Perhaps we have underestimated humans. Perhaps their strength lies not in force, but in remembrance. They remember what we cannot, or chose not to." Another member, younger and more curious, said, "If humans can preserve knowledge of us that we lost, what else might they carry? What other truths might they help us rediscover?" Valith looked at Elias, a small smile forming. It seems we are at the beginning of something new. The past can guide the future if we allow it. And humanity remembers what others forget. That is a power greater than any weapon. Elias nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and wonder. The trial had not been easy. The prism had tested his mind, his intent, and his patience. But humans had succeeded not because of strength or cunning, but because of their capacity to respect and honor memory. The council, once skeptical, now seemed contemplative. Some even approached him, curious and tentative, asking questions about the ancient alliances, the starways, and the guidance humans had preserved. Elias answered as best he could, careful, patient, and truthful. By the end of the day, the trial of memory was complete. Elias had passed, not through dominance or intimidation, but through knowledge, respect, and the honesty that humans valued above all. He and Valeth walked together through the palace gardens once more, the sun dipping lower, painting the sky with shades of amber and violet. "You have done well," Valeth said softly. "The council will need time to adjust, but they will listen now. They may even begin to remember, to see the value of what humans preserve." Elias smiled. "I only hope that in time, humans and Sorithians can truly work together. We have much to learn from each other, and the galaxy is wide. There are still lost paths and forgotten knowledge waiting for us." Valeth looked up at the stars that were just beginning to appear. "And together, we will find them. Your people remember what others forget, Elias Ward. That is a gift we will not waste." The chamber, the palace, and the gardens all seemed to glow softly under the first starlight. The trial of memory was over, but a new journey had begun. The forgotten knowledge of the Sorithians was awakening, guided by humans who remembered. And somewhere in the quiet, vast galaxy, the echoes of a lost alliance began to hum once more, ready to shape a future that neither species could face alone. Elias felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of hope and determination. This was only the beginning. Humanity had passed the test, not by conquering, not by claiming, but by remembering. And in the memory of what had been lost, a new path was opening, a path that would lead to discovery, cooperation, and a shared destiny among the stars. The princess, walking beside him, seemed lighter, freer. Perhaps centuries of fear and forgetfulness were beginning to lift. The galaxy awaited, and for the first time in many cycles, humans and Sorithians were ready to face it together. And in that moment, Elias understood something profound. Memory was more powerful than any weapon. And humanity, in its desire to remember, could change not only its own destiny, but the destiny of the stars themselves. The twin suns of Sorith IV had dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky awash with violet and silver. The palace, usually serene, hummed with a tension that Elias Ward had not felt before. The trial of memory had passed, yet a new challenge now awaited. Ancient Sorithian technology, machines older than any living memory, was stirring. The memory of the past, awakened by Elias and Princess Valeth, had triggered mechanisms that the High Council had long forgotten. In the palace control chamber, a vast room filled with glowing panels and crystalline interfaces, Valeth stood beside Elias. Her fingers hovered over a console, unsure whether to touch it or let the machines act on their own. "They are waking," she said softly. "The ancient systems sense the revival of forgotten knowledge. They will not stop for anyone, Sorithian or human." Elias studied the panels, the alien symbols reflecting in his eyes. "They respond to intent," he said. "Not species. If we show them purpose instead of threat, they might accept guidance instead of seeing us as enemies." Valeth nodded, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed her fear. She had inherited a world that thrived on control and order, yet these systems operated on principles from a forgotten age, beyond even her knowledge. "The Stargate," Elias said suddenly. "It may still be functional. If we can access it, we can calm the network. I'll need your help to interpret the signals." Valeth blinked. "You think humanity can communicate with machines built by our ancestors, machines that even we barely understand?" "I do," Elias replied calmly. "We adapt. We find patterns, solve problems, and connect what others see as impossible." Together, they approached the Stargate, a massive ring of metal and crystal standing silently in the palace courtyard. Its surface was etched with glowing glyphs, long dormant, now flickering with renewed energy. The hum of the machine resonated through the ground, a vibration that Elias felt in his chest. "It's alive," Valeth whispered, "and it knows that someone remembers." Elias placed his hands on the gate. Unlike Sorithians, humans had a way of seeing machines not only as tools, but as partners. He reached into his mind, recalling every detail from the star maps and schematics preserved by humans. Slowly, he traced the sequence of activations with his hands, touching the glyphs in patterns that mirrored their ancient function. At first, nothing happened. The hum grew louder, almost as if the gate was testing him, questioning his presence. Then faint lights began to travel along the etched circuits, pulsing in rhythm with the human's intent. Elias smiled. It's responding. It senses that we mean to awaken, not destroy. Valeth watched in awe. You are extraordinary. Your people have a way of connecting with the world that we lost long ago. Elias shrugged slightly. We remember what others forget. That is our strength. The gate activated fully, sending a pulse of energy into the surrounding palace structures. Screens lit up, showing maps of distant star systems, energy flows, and dormant colonies. The network of machines had begun to awaken. The problem was clear. If left unchecked, the system might interpret the awakening as a threat and trigger defenses, potentially harming both Sorithians and humans. We need to synchronize, Elias said urgently. The system will follow the intent of whoever guides it first. If we act together, we can prevent catastrophe. Valeth moved beside him, placing her hands on the console. Together, they formed a connection with the Stargate. It was as if their minds intertwined with the machine, combining human adaptability with Sorithian precision. The gate responded, first with hesitation, then with certainty. Outside, alarms began to sound. Lights flashed across the palace, signaling that secondary defense systems were activating. Robotic sentinels emerged from hidden compartments, their movements mechanical yet graceful. They were programmed to protect the Sorithians at all costs, but they could not distinguish between friend and foe in the face of reawakened memories. Elias raised his hand. Stop! We are not a threat. Let us guide you. The sentinels paused, unsure, as the gate projected a wave of energy that harmonized with Elias' presence. Slowly, the machines lowered their arms, their systems aligning with the human's intent. Valeth exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It's working, she said. You've tamed the system without force. You've done what our people could not. Elias smiled faintly. We did it together. Humanity adapts, but we also respect what came before. That is why it responds. The energy from the gate spread across the palace and the surrounding city. Holographic projections displayed the ancient routes once hidden, showing pathways to distant star systems, lost colonies, and archives containing knowledge thought destroyed. The network of machines, now aware of friendly intent, accepted the guidance of both human and Sorithian minds. Valeth's eyes gleamed with realization. This is a gift, a second chance to reclaim what was lost. Elias nodded. But it is only the beginning. These machines will follow guidance, but someone must lead. Together, humans and Sorithians can explore, restore, and protect these forgotten paths. Outside, citizens of the city gathered, drawn by the hum and glow of the Stargate. They watched in wonder as the ancient technology came alive, guided not by fear or control, but by cooperation and understanding. Children pointed at the lights, elders whispered stories of the past, and for the first time in centuries, the people felt a connection to the history their rulers had long hidden. Valeth turned to Elias. The council will see this soon. They cannot ignore what is happening. You've proven that humans are not just travelers, they are keepers of memory and builders of futures. Elias smiled. I only hope they listen. Knowledge without action is wasted, but now the galaxy itself is responding to us. The stars are answering. Hours passed as they worked, fine-tuning the alignment of the Stargate with the broader network of Sorithian systems. Elias guided the energy flows, showing the paths to colonies lost to time, mapping out signals to dormant stations, and connecting nodes that had not spoken to each other for thousands of years. Valeth assisted, translating human understanding into Sorithian patterns, their combined efforts creating a bridge between species and generations. Finally, the Stargate pulsed one last time, a bright wave of light extending into the heavens. The energy flowed outward, touching distant systems, awakening archives, and sending signals of cooperation and memory across the galaxy. The city was silent for a moment, as if the universe itself had paused to recognize the achievement. Then slowly, applause and cheers arose from the crowd. The citizens saw not a human intruder, but a partner who had reminded their civilization of what it had forgotten. Valith approached Elias, her expression both proud and contemplative. "You've changed everything. The Council will follow this, whether willingly or not. But the systems, the starways, the knowledge, it is now ours to guide together." Elias nodded. "The past has awakened. Now it is up to us to ensure it leads to a better future, not destruction. Humans remember and we honor what others have built. That is how we survive and thrive among the stars." The stars above Sorith IV twinkled brighter than ever, as if responding to the harmony now established. The ancient systems hummed a gentle melody, no longer a threat but a guide. Humanity had shown its strength not in force or domination, but in understanding, patience, and the courage to connect across species and centuries. Valith stood beside Elias, looking out at the glowing city and the now quiet palace. "The galaxy is vast," she said, "and we have just begun to explore it together. Humanity has proven its value not as conquerors, but as companions of history and memory." Elias smiled at the thought. "The stars have answered, and they will continue to answer as long as we remember, as long as we act with respect, and as long as we choose to honor the past while shaping the future." For the first time in generations, the Palace of Sorith IV felt alive not just with technology, but with hope. The trial of memory, the awakening of the systems, and the rediscovery of forgotten knowledge had created a new beginning. A beginning where humans and Sorithians could walk together, guided by memory, courage, and cooperation. And somewhere in the vast galaxy beyond, distant colonies and lost archives began to hum, recognizing the return of those who remembered. The stars themselves had answered the call, not with war, not with fear, but with understanding. Elias and Valith stood together, their hands brushing lightly. "This is only the start," she said. "Yes," Elias replied, "but it is the start we needed. Humanity remembers. And now the galaxy will remember with us." The twin suns rose again, casting light on a world reborn. And in that light the path forward was clear, to explore, to connect, and to honor what had been lost together. The morning light on Sorith IV filtered gently through the palace's crystal windows, casting a soft glow over the courtyard. The city was alive with anticipation. Word of the Star Gate's awakening, and the cooperation between humans and Sorithians had spread quickly. Citizens, scholars, and emissaries from distant regions had gathered, eager to witness a moment that had been unthinkable for centuries: the return of forgotten knowledge and the restoration of history. Princess Valith walked beside Elia's ward, her steps measured but filled with purpose. The memory of the trial of memory and the reactivation of the Star Gate still lingered in her mind. She had seen the power of humans, not in dominance or force, but in their unique ability to remember, to connect, and to honor the past. "Today," she said softly, "we restore not only what has been lost, but what defines us. Names, memories, and histories that were buried, they will be remembered again." Elias nodded. "And it is your choice to lead that restoration. I am only here to guide what humanity preserved, but the honor belongs to you and your people." Valith's gaze lingered on the Star Gate in the distance. Its energy pulsed gently, reflecting the renewed alignment of the ancient networks. Elias had helped her awaken what her people had forgotten, but now the responsibility rested on her. She drew in a deep breath, preparing herself for the ceremony that would return her true name to history. The council chamber was filled beyond capacity. Every member of the High Council, scholars, and even citizens who had been invited were present. Holographic projections of the reawakened starways and archives shimmered across the walls, a reminder of the knowledge humanity had helped restore. The atmosphere was electric yet respectful. Valith stepped forward, her presence commanding attention without arrogance. Elias remained beside her, quietly observing the reactions of the council. Some faces reflected awe, others curiosity, and a few still held doubt, but even the most skeptical could not deny the evidence before them. "Citizens of Sorith IV," Valith began, her voice clear and steady, "for centuries a part of our history was hidden from us. Names, places, knowledge that guided our ancestors were erased in fear and caution. Today we reclaim what was lost. Today we remember." She turned slightly toward Elias. "Elias Ward, your people have preserved what we forgot. Through memory, patience, and care, you have shown us the value of remembering what others leave behind." The chamber murmured, a wave of recognition passing through the gathered crowd. Valeth raised her hand, silencing the whispers. I stand here to restore a name, my true name, known only to those who lived before the erasure. My name is Valeth Shara, she declared. The syllables were unfamiliar to most in the room, yet they carried a resonance that felt ancient, powerful, and right. The memory prism, now fully aligned with the restored knowledge, glowed in response. Energy waves rippled through the chamber, a quiet hum that seemed to echo the recognition of truth. The council members felt it, the citizens felt it, and Valeth felt it deep within herself. Her name had returned to the world, not as a word alone, but as a symbol of history, culture, and resilience. Elias stepped forward. The humans call it a gift when knowledge survives. What you see today is proof of what humanity values: memory, understanding, and respect. It is not power we seek, but connection. Valeth smiled, a mixture of pride and gratitude. And that connection is what we will honor. The starways, the archives, and the machines are no longer tools of isolation. They are bridges to the past and guides to our future. The elder with bronze skin, who had once questioned Elias in the trial of memory, rose slowly. We have doubted humans before, but today they have reminded us of the strength of remembrance. They have returned what was lost without taking anything for themselves. That is a rare and worthy gift. Another council member, young and wide-eyed, asked, if humans can preserve what we forgot, what else might they help us rediscover? Elias' eyes gleamed with the quiet confidence of someone who had devoted his life to discovery. Not everything is meant to be known at once, but together, humans and Saurithians can explore, preserve, and understand the histories that remain hidden. Memory is not a burden, it is a key. Valeth stepped to the center of the chamber. She raised her hand again, addressing all present. Let today mark a new era for our people. We will no longer fear the past, nor will we erase it for comfort. We will embrace it, guided by the wisdom of those who remember, including humans. And through that remembrance, we will grow stronger. The restored star gate hummed in the background, its energy now steady and calm. Projections of distant worlds shimmered across the chamber walls, showing colonies that had been abandoned, archives of civilizations that had faded, and technologies long unused. The council members approached the projections, studying them, discussing potential exploration, and asking questions of Elias and Valeth alike. Valeth watched the interactions with satisfaction. She realized that humanity's gift was more than knowledge, it was a way of thinking. Humans did not claim the past as their own. They preserved it, respected it, and offered it as guidance. Their strength lay in remembering, not in controlling. Elias noticed her expression. You have led them well, he said quietly. Valeth nodded. Your people showed me the way, but it is my choice to bring history back to my people. And now I see that we do not have to face the galaxy alone. Together we can explore what we have lost and discover what lies ahead. The celebrations began as the chamber cleared. Citizens filled the courtyards, watching the Stargate and the projections of the recovered knowledge. Scholars gathered around Elias, eager to understand the techniques humans had used to preserve information. Valeth walked among her people, greeting elders, children, and council members, her heart swelling with pride. Her true name, Valeth Shara, was spoken aloud for the first time in millennia, and with it came the restoration of dignity, history, and identity. Elias remained near the Stargate, observing quietly. He had played a role in this restoration, but he understood that true leadership belonged to Valeth. Humans remembered, yes, but they did not claim. They honored. And in doing so, they had sparked a new beginning for a civilization long burdened by fear of the past. As the twin suns rose again, painting the city in gold and silver, Valeth joined Elias. What now? She asked. Now, Elias said, we explore. We follow the starways, awaken lost knowledge, and build alliances. Humans remember, yes, but we also act. The galaxy is wide, and there is much to discover. Together, we can make the unknown less frightening and the lost no longer forgotten. Valeth looked toward the horizon, where distant stars began to shimmer even in the dawn light. Together, she echoed, we will not forget. We will reclaim the lost paths, honor our ancestors, and shape the future with what we remember. And so, the name that had been lost to time returned to the galaxy. Valeth Shara, Princess of Saurith IV, now stood not only as a ruler, but as a symbol of restoration and courage. Humanity, through Elias Ward and countless generations of memory, had proven that remembering could be more powerful than any weapon. It could awaken civilizations, restore history, and guide the future. The stars above Sorith IV twinkled, seemingly acknowledging the new alliance, the restored memories, and the promise of discovery. Somewhere among the distant, silent worlds, lost colonies and dormant archives began to hum quietly, sensing that they were no longer forgotten. Elias and Valeth stood side by side, gazing at the horizon. "This is only the beginning," Valeth said. "Yes," Elias replied, "but it is a beginning built on memory, courage, and cooperation. Humanity remembers, and now the galaxy will remember with us." The palace and city shimmered under the light of the twin suns, alive with hope, knowledge, and anticipation. A new era had begun, one where the past was honored, the present was strengthened, and the future awaited, open and unafraid. And in that moment, across the starways, the galaxy seemed to respond, not with war, not with fear, but with recognition. Humanity had shown that to remember was to create strength, and through that strength, all civilizations could find their true place among the stars.